The phrase utterly undriveable did not escape the lips of a desperate rookie, but rather from a 4-time world champion who understands every single nut and bolt within the Milton Keynes facility. The fundamental issue here is the catastrophic disconnection between the chassis and the brand new 2026 power unit.
And tough to do anything from where you were in the sprint there.
Yeah, I mean, I had no power, probably a similar issue to what Liam had in Melbourne. But even after that...
Max Verstappen described every single lap as nothing less than a grueling exercise in pure survival. In practical terms, this suggests that the car completely lacks a stable aerodynamic platform. One moment you are wrestling with chronic understeer on the entry of the corner, and in the next millisecond the rear end attempts to overtake you with a violent burst of oversteer.
Because I could make my way forward a little bit, but terrible balance, more degradation than the people around me in the midfield. So yeah, pretty much a disaster, I would say.
This happens because the electrical energy deployment is in direct conflict with the aerodynamic map. When the electric motor kicks in or cuts out, it alters the torque so aggressively that it destabilizes the vital airflow under the floor. The result is a carbon fiber machine that behaves like a headless chicken on the track. Oracle Red Bull Racing attempted every possible adjustment during the interval between the sprint race and qualifying, rotating the setup from top to bottom. Yet the response from Max was blunt. Zero difference. The rabbit hole goes much deeper when you witness an Alpine, driven by Pierre Gasly, absolutely leaving the Red Bull for dead on the circuit. If the previous objective was to catch up to McLaren, the current reality is a desperate struggle just to remain the 4th fastest team. For the Grand Prix tomorrow, Verstappen has effectively thrown in the towel, stating that the absolute ceiling for the car is a mere 7th place. Red Bull, a team that was once the undisputed queen of efficiency, is now suffering from the most severe tyre degradation seen across the entire field. It is a devastating domino effect. Because the car lacks any mechanical grip due to that disconnected balance, the driver is forced to scrub the tyres against the asphalt just to navigate the corners. Over the course of 19 laps during the sprint race, the Red Bull 22 obliterated its rubber compounds in a manner that suggested it was racing on top of coarse sandpaper rather than a circuit. With the energy delivery being so erratic, the temperature spikes in the rear tyres are becoming impossible to manage. The absolute core of the issue that has remained largely hidden until now is that Mercedes nearly bottled the entire session due to a catastrophic sensor failure. This critical glitch was so severe it forced a complete steering wheel swap in the dying minutes of the session. George Russell entered the day as the undisputed favourite after his dominant performance in the sprint race.
Well, given everything you've just described, just how good was that one and only lap in Q3?
It was as good as I could have achieved. But you know, I had no battery starting my lap and my tyres were cold. But as I said, I'm very grateful to be sat here right now. It was more a case of getting a time on the board. I knew, Kimi's been really strong.
But the 2026 Formula One season offers no mercy to those who encounter even the slightest technical hiccup. During qualifying session 2, the front wing began showing signs of structural fatigue. And by qualifying session 3, the nightmare peaked as the car completely cut out at the exit of turn 3. The real masterstroke here was not some strategic genius from technical director James Allison, but rather the sheer composure shown by George Russell. He managed to manually restart the power unit and limp the machine back to the pits while being stuck in third gear. You have to understand how impossible it is to complete a qualifying lap without the hybrid battery system active. It is effectively like trying to win a marathon with only one lung functioning.
And things were far from optimized my side, so it was more a case of get the car across the line and make sure I'm starting in a sensible position. P2 was much better than I expected. As I said, when I started the lap with no battery and no tire temperature, I was expecting to be further down the order. So, as I said, just really glad to be here.
Without any electrical deployment on the straights and struggling with stone-cold tyres, George Russell had absolutely zero margin for error. He was the very last driver to cross the timing line, yet he somehow wrung every last drop of performance out of that car to secure position 2. While the young Kimi Antonelli was busy rewriting the history books as the youngest pole sitter of all time, shattering a record held by Sebastian Vettel that many believed would last forever, George Russell was busy steadying the ship in the garage. The Italian teenager was absolutely brilliant under the lights, but the older Englishman proved exactly why he is the team leader by securing a front-row lockout under such precarious conditions. This marks the first 1-2 finish for Mercedes in the 2026 era. But despite the smiles for the cameras, the atmosphere behind the scenes is one of maximum alert. The fundamental truth currently keeping team principal Andrea Stella awake at night is a technical mystery that seems to defy all logic. Despite running the exact same power unit, the McLaren is bleeding more than 0.15 seconds on the 0.75 mile back straight in Shanghai compared to the works Mercedes team. On paper, the 2026 regulations mandate that customer engines must be identical, but in reality, the soul of the power unit, which is the complex energy management software, remains a closely guarded secret, locked away by Toto Wolff and James Allison. Lando Norris has been clinical in his assessment of the situation. McLaren understands the hardware perfectly, yet the deployment mapping appears to possess a hidden trick that only the factory squad truly masters. It is effectively as if Mercedes has handed over the computer to Woking, but stubbornly refused to share the administrator password. The cars remain neck and neck through the first 2 sectors, but the moment the throttle hits the floor on the straight, the factory Mercedes simply vanishes without any obvious explanation in the telemetry data. Lando Norris openly admitted that while the McLaren currently possesses more raw power than Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari, they are losing out significantly in terms of aerodynamic efficiency and ground effect stability. To compensate for this blatant lack of straight-line speed against the silver arrows, the McLaren drivers are forced to shred their tires through the high-speed corners just to maintain a competitive lap time. They are essentially overdriving the chassis to make up for the software deficit, which is a recipe for disaster in a long race. This puts the entire development project for the McLaren 40 at an immense strategic risk. The central fact of the matter is a direct and devastating accusation. Lewis Hamilton is claiming that Mercedes is hiding an ultra-aggressive engine, mapping that is only activated from qualifying session 2 onwards. He has identified a pattern that is bordering on the supernatural. During qualifying session 1, the Scuderia Ferrari cars are consistently within 0.1 seconds of the Mercedes. Then, suddenly, during qualifying session 2, that gap explodes to 0.5 seconds, sometimes reaching as much as 0.7 of a second. This is not merely a masterclass in aerodynamics, my friends. This is what we call in the paddock pure, unadulterated energy deployment.
It's so much fun. I mean, these cars are a lot of fun to drive, and the fact that there are the differences between us and Mercedes make it challenging in the race. We're able to be a little bit closer, which is fun, and obviously not the result I wanted in the end, but a lot learned. And we're going to go and see if we can make some changes now.
Under these new 2026 regulations, where the electrical components provide half of the total performance, Mercedes seems to have discovered a way to overclock their power unit without immediately melting the internal systems. Lewis Hamilton knows every single shortcut and secret inside the Brackley factory, and his assessment was lethal. I know exactly how it works there. They have a mode that we simply do not have access to. It is a massive statement that casts a dark shadow over the supposed parity of the engines supplied to customer teams like McLaren and Williams. If the power units are truly identical, why is it that only the Silver Arrows factory team can produce this massive quantum leap on the stopwatch? Technically, what we are witnessing is a hyper-aggressive management of the electrical deployment combined with fuel flow pushed to the absolute limit of the legal pressure. While Hamilton's Ferrari appears much more balanced and compliant through the high-speed corners, it simply withers away when it needs that final shove on the long straights.
A big thank you to the team for us to be able to be in this position fighting with the Mercedes at the front. It was a close battle at the beginning there. Speed on the straights just a little bit too much at the moment, but I think I put up a good fight, but I killed my left tire, so I wasn't able to hold on to the position.
The Scuderia might have the poise, but Mercedes has the raw, hidden muscle. However, this high-stakes gamble from Mercedes comes with a terrifying reliability risk. Running a power unit in this party mode 2.0 places the internal components and the battery storage under an alarming level of stress. Remember that George Russell suffered a total electrical blackout today? Well, perhaps the price of such immense power is a system that is constantly teetering on the edge of a total collapse. You cannot push the thermal limits that hard without expecting the hardware to eventually cry for mercy. Behind the scenes, Hamilton's comments are being viewed as a deliberate and calculated political move. The old wolf is using his vast influence to ensure the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile scrutinizes the Mercedes energy management software with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, I see you standing here with a smile. How much nicer are these cars to drive? How much better do they suit your driving style this year?
I don't know. I feel it's just a much better car that we've designed, and I've been a part of developing it. So definitely a lot happier in it. And of course, I was in the lead at one point, so to finish third is not the greatest, but I will try harder.
He is effectively trying to level the playing field before the championship slipstream disappears. Meanwhile, young Kimi Antonelli has snatched a historic pole position with the typical audacity of youth. But the burning question remains: is he a once-in-a-generation genius, or is he simply sitting on a juiced-up engine that no one else is allowed to touch? Do you believe Mercedes is playing a fair game, or is this new party mode a massive grey area in the technical regulations? Is Hamilton right to blow the whistle on his former team? Or is this just a case of sour grapes after being left behind in qualifying session 3? Drop your theories in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the fallout from this Chinese Grand Prix. And as always, a massive hug, cheers, and I am out.